Is Gojo stronger than Sukuna? This is a question that has been asked by both the fans and the characters of Jujutsu Kaisen since day one. And with round one of Gojo vs. Sukuna having officially completed, I wanted to take the time to analyze each character's power and find out who truly is the Honored One. To start off, let's look at the speed, AP, durability, and hacks that Sukuna possesses. For his speed, we need not look farther than his fight with Yuji and Maki. Even while at 15 fingers and potentially nerfed output depending on the translation, Sukuna is still able to keep up with the likes of a fully awakened Maki and a bloodlusted Yuji without breaking a sweat, and is at times able to catch both of them off guard with hits. Maki is someone who has been stated to be equal to Toji, who is one of the fastest characters in the verse, and so for Sukuna to be able to keep up with both a Toji level character and a massively amped Yuji, all while being curse energy output nerfed and at 15 fingers, speaks volumes to his speed. We see that he's even able to blitz Ishigori, who has been shown to be relative to Yuta, again all while at 15 fingers. Needless to say, if Sukuna is faster than 99% of the verse at just 15 fingers, the fully powered Sukuna that's currently fighting Gojo would have speed that is far above nearly every other character in the verse. With Sukuna's speed only being rivaled by Gojo, who is stated to be the fastest sorcerer, it's time we look at his attack potency. Sukuna has demonstrated some of the most powerful attacks we've seen in the series. Casual use of Dismantle against Gojo was able to cut straight through a building, and his domain demolishes literally everything in its radius of 200 meters. Even more than that, Sukuna with a single punch was able to send Yuji flying through several buildings while only being at 15 fingers. And now that he possesses the 10 shadows, Sukuna has gained the power of Mahoraga, who physically is also a force to be reckoned with, being able to keep up with a 15-finger Sukuna and even toss him through several buildings. All this is to say that Sukuna is no slouch when it comes to attack potency, once again only being rivaled by Gojo and potentially scaling above him, but we'll get to that later. Once again, we see that Sukuna is top of the verse when it comes to attack potency, and now it's time to look at his durability. Sukuna's durability is nothing short of insane. Depending on your interpretation, he was able to either tank or dodge the 200% Hollow Purple, so regardless, it's an incredible feat for him. He's taken several blows from a serious Gojo, whose basic hits amped with blue one-shotted Urame and made both Yuta and Hikari vomit. On top of all of this, Sukuna is incredibly proficient with the reverse curse technique, meaning that any damage that he does incur can just be healed instantly. With Sukuna's durability scaled, we can finally take a look at his hacks. Simply put, he has like all of them. His Cursed Energy Reserve is double that of Yuta's, who is stated to be bottomless and higher than Gojo. On top of that, his raw Cursed Energy efficiency is topped only by Gojo with the 6 eyes, so Sukuna has near infinite stamina. Couple that with an open barrier domain expansion that rips through the barriers of other domains, the ability to change domain attributes on the fly, multiple curse techniques, some of which we haven't even seen, and the ability to grant Mahoraga an adaptation without summoning Mahoraga itself, and you have a character that is filled to the brim with insane hacks. Now that we've covered Sukuna's abilities, it's time to look at what Gojo's got, beginning with speed. Aside from flat out being called the fastest sorcerer, Gojo has multiple speed feats that put him near the top of the verse, if not the very top. After Gojo's first domain expansion collapsed, he was able to keep up with Sukuna while his technique was burnt out and while he was spamming reverse curse technique to keep himself alive. This is a Sukuna who upscales from the one who 2v1'd Maki and Yuji, and as we've established earlier, Maki is a Toji level fighter and Toji himself is near top of the verse in speed. Along with his insane combat speed, Gojo has high speed movement with blue, allowing him to teleport massive distances in an instant. Seeing as Gojo has speed and stride, it's time we take a look at his AP. Simply put, Gojo's AP is monstrous. Hollow Purple literally erases matter, so it bypasses conventional durability to just delete stuff. His basic punches are constantly amped with blue, and as was stated earlier, have incapacitated Yuta, Hikari, and Urame all in one punch. Gojo's blue has been shown to rip through the surrounding area, even acting as a form of telekinesis to allow Gojo to lift objects and throw people around. And lastly, red has been shown to be incredibly powerful, if not slightly inconsistent. But it has been able to damage Toji, Sukuna, and Gojo was confident that it would one-shot a Mahoraga with no adaptation. Clearly, Gojo's AP is nothing short of insane, easily putting him in line with Sukuna and in ways surpassing him. But of course, we'll talk about that later, and for now, it's time to take a look at Gojo's durability. Gojo's durability doesn't have particularly many feats due to his limitless being active 24/7, but we do see a few key things that show just how tanky he is. After his domain collapsed, he was able to take an onslaught of attacks from Malevolent Shrine, and while aided by his reverse curse technique, Gojo has been shown to be the only character other than Mahoraga to survive Malevolent Shrine, and Gojo was able to take the attacks far easier. On top of that, Gojo has taken a few hits from Sukuna, showing little signs of damage, and Sukuna has already been established to have ridiculous striking power. So while Gojo's durability doesn't have particularly many showings, it's clear from what we do see that Gojo is incredibly tanky and is no slouch in terms of durability. All that aside, it's time to take a look at Gojo's hacks, and there certainly are a few of them. Just to list off some of Gojo's hacks, Gojo is untouchable outside of domain amplification and domain expansion. He can fly, teleport, has essentially infinite stamina, Hollow Purple negates durability, Unlimited Void is an instant hit that stunlocks and causes brain damage, his 6 eyes can reveal curse techniques and see the soul, he can make visual copies of himself, and blue orbs that are similar to Yorozu's perfect sphere. Not to mention, he also possesses the ability to alter his domain attributes on the fly, just like Sukuna. With us having covered the abilities of both Gojo and Sukuna, it's time we finally put them head to head, analyze their fight so far, and find out who truly is the strongest. If you've been paying particularly close attention to the way I've scaled Gojo and Sukuna, you'll notice that I only ever say that these characters are top of the verse and relative to each other, without giving much sway to either side. And this is because, simply put, these characters are near even in every stat. Throughout the fight, we've seen that in terms of speed, Gojo and Sukuna are basically the same. They're able to keep up with each other in combat, react to each other's attacks, and both have instances of being caught off guard by the other's speed, making it near impossible to definitively say that one is faster than the other. This much can be said for durability as well. Obviously, since the fight is still ongoing, neither character has been able to kill the other, and while both have gotten close, it's clear that their durabilities are enough for them to have survived this long against each other, and only putting more power to the idea that their durabilities are also near even. Where we begin to see a little divergence is in their AP and hacks. Beginning with AP, I think it's somewhat clear that Sukuna has at least the wider reaching attacks. Malevolent Shine's radius just eclipses anything we've seen Gojo pull out, since his 200% Hollow Purple isn't something that he can do without outside help. That being said, Hollow Purple's Matter Deletion puts Gojo ahead in terms of raw single target damage. However, for the rest of their attacks, it's safe to say that their AP is once again near even. The only technique-based attack that has done significant physical damage to Sukuna is Red, and despite that, Sukuna isn't dead. And similarly, the only significant damage done to Gojo has been from Malevolent Shrine, although Mahoraga may change that. Once again, Dismantle and Cleave haven't been enough to kill Gojo. All this really goes to show is that, outside of fringe cases like with Gojo's 200% Purple, or if we were to only measure the reach of their attacks, Gojo and Sukuna's AP, like the rest of their stats, is essentially equal. Where the real difference comes in is in their hacks. What it really boils down to is the fact that Gojo's Limitless severely limits the moves that Sukuna can use. Sukuna is left with 3 options: Domain Expansion, Domain Amplification, or Mahoraga. With Domain Expansion, Gojo has already shown the ability to counter that, so what Sukuna is left with is just Domain Amplification as he waits for Mahoraga to adapt. The problem with that is that it completely negates the advantages of having multiple techniques. Without amplification, Sukuna can't hit Gojo, but using amplification requires that Sukuna gives up all his techniques. Meanwhile, Gojo is able to spam his techniques, flinging Sukuna around both inside and outside of the domain, shooting off reds, and this ultimately allows him to be dominant throughout the fight as soon as he got over Malevolent Shrine. This dominance is put on full display in their final domain clash, as Gojo is able to hit Sukuna with Unlimited Void, and would have completely killed him had it not been for Sukuna's clever use of Megumi's soul to adapt to Unlimited Void. So with the difference in their hacks being so prominent, it's clear that as soon as Malevolent Shrine was taken out of the picture, Gojo became the stronger fighter. He's been giving Sukuna the hands for the past 4 chapters, in large part due to Sukuna's inability to do anything but wait for Maharaga to adapt either to Limitless or Unlimited Void, or to just give up his techniques and use Domain Amplification to try and hit Gojo. But this difference in their hacks is enough to say that if Sukuna were to be in Yuji's body, or if he simply didn't have Maharaga, Gojo would be far stronger. Now, the statement comes with some caveats. Just because Gojo is stronger than Sukuna without Maharaga does not mean that I think Sukuna will lose. I still think Gojo will end up losing, just in a way that allows him to still be considered the strongest. Additionally, I don't think it's right to say that Gojo would beat a Heian-era Sukuna simply because we know so little about him. His 4 arms would definitely change their hand-to-hand, and Gojo might even go from being dominant in that field to losing, and he has 2 unknown curse tools that could change the dynamics of their fight. That being said, just to reiterate the point of this video, when we consider all their abilities and the way that the fight has gone on so far, especially with Gojo having knocked out Sukuna with a Black Flash, it's clear that Gojo is far stronger.